Welcome to another Sangha. First, I'd like to invite you all to make yourselves comfortable. As always, find a comfortable seated position if you like. You have permission to lie down. You can stand up if you'd like to stand. You're welcome to put your phone in your pocket and walk around your room or walk around your space. You can drive if you're driving. Whatever position you're in, you can make an intention to do so mindfully. So that's the invitation. And throughout the course of our session, I invite you to change positions if you need to in order for it to be most comfortable. You're welcome to close your eyes. If you'd like to close your eyes, you can keep your eyes open if you like. And of course, you can turn your screen off if you don't feel like having your screen on. Whatever options work for you. Okay. So today I get to talk about one of my favorite things to talk about, which is metta, or loving kindness. Metta is one of what the Buddha called one of the four Brahmaviharas, or the divine abodes. So these are qualities of the heart and mind that help cultivate positive behaviors and minimize harmful ones. So these are also known as the four immeasurables, and they're considered the supreme emotional or mental states. So the four Brahma Viharas are loving kindness or metta, karuna, compassion, sympathetic joy, mudita, and equanimity, upekkha. So we're going to focus on loving kindness today, but I'd like to do a series, I think in a couple months, where we really focus on all four of these qualities. According to the late Buddhist teacher, Ayya Khema, she describes the four divine abodes as the only emotions worth having. The only emotions worth having. So these qualities are considered divine because they represent love and goodwill to all sentient beings. And they can lead us to a sublime and compassionate state of being within ourselves. I love the word Brahmavihara. It's a beautiful word. Vihara in Pali, it means dwelling place or abode, dwelling place. And Brahma is the word associated with divinity. So classically, it translates as the divine abodes. So this suggests that these four states are wonderful conditions of human consciousness that we can live in. We can live here. The heart and the mind can rest and feel at ease and be at home. And also it's a place that we can strive to live in the majority of our lives. So metta, loving kindness, the sincere wish for the well-being and happiness and safety of all beings, including ourselves. So this involves cultivating a boundless sense of love and unconditional love. Transcends personal history and personal biases, boundaries, personal preferences. And when we practice this, we're extending loving kindness towards all beings, regardless of their relationship and regardless of their behavior. So this can be a very powerful practice. And some people get tripped up by the translation, kindness. And the word kindness here, it does not equate to being nice. So the word nice has a lot of social obligation embedded within it. So that's not what we're talking about. Kindness is a genuine quality, and it comes from a sincere heartfelt intention for good. Sometimes metta is translated as friendliness or benevolence or simply love. So if you like those translations better, I invite you to use that translation, friendliness. Some people like that one. Um, if you're going to use friendliness, I invite you to use some kind of uh, adjective that kind of implies the power of the friendliness, not just an ordinary friendliness. It's like really um, rich, benevolent friendliness. But if you like benevolence or love, you can use that. Personally, I like loving kindness. It feels, I enjoy the strength of that phrase. So this kind of love is contrasted with another word that the Buddha used called pema, which is, it's also love, but that's more like love that tends towards attachment. Um, and so when love is attached to pleasurable experiences or sights or sounds or thoughts or relationships or other sensory experiences, um, sometimes that can be a hindrance to awakening. Um, but sometimes pema is used to describe the love that can be very wholesome that a student feels towards their teacher or a wise friend, or it can be an expression of faith or devotion. So, and it can also be romantic and familial. And romantic love and familial love can have aspects of both metta, loving kindness, which is unconditional, and also pema, which has a little bit of conditions involved. So the one thing to be careful about is the attached love is described as a near enemy of metta because of that possibility of having conditions around it. Because there's an element of grasping within that. There's a story that Jack Cornfield likes to read, and it touches me, so I'd like to share it with you. So this is written by Richard Selzer, who is a surgeon at Yale University, and he calls this the kiss. I stand by the bed where a young woman lies, her face post-operative, her mouth twisted in palsy, clownish. A tiny twig of the facial nerve, one of the muscles of her mouth has been severed. She will be thus from now on. The surgeon had followed with religious fervor the curve of her flesh. I promise you that. Nevertheless, to remove the tumor in her cheek, I had to cut the little nerve. Her young husband is in the room. He stands on the opposite side of the bed, and together they dwell in the evening lamplight. Who are they? I ask. They gaze at each other and touch one another so generously. The woman speaks. Will my mouth always be like this? She asks. Yes, I say, it will. It's because the nerve was cut. She nods a silent nod. But the young man smiles. I like it, he says. It's kind of cute. All at once, I know who he is. And unaware of my presence, I lower my gaze, for one is not bold in an encounter with the gods. And then he bends to kiss her crooked mouth. And I, so close, I can see how he twists his own lips to accommodate hers, to show her that their kiss still works. And I remember that the gods appeared in ancient Greece as mortals. And I hold my breath and I let the wonder in. I like that story. There's a hint of pema because it's a romantic relationship, but there's a lot of metta there. There's a lot of unconditionality, and for me, it just touches me deeply. So I wanted to share it. So metta is the unconditional love, and so this is really the foundation of all the Rama Viharas. The other three qualities can be understood as variations of the loving kindness that um, can arise in different circumstances. I'd like to read a passage from the Anguttara Nikaya. So this is the numerical discourses of the Buddha. So these are like some of the original discourses that were in the Pali language, that were original talks the Buddha gave 2,600 years ago. So it's like this enormous volume. And I haven't read the whole thing cover to cover, but what I am reading is in the Buddha's words, and it's a much smaller volume, and it distills thousands and thousands of pages of Buddhist teachings into a smaller volume. And then when I get to something that interests me, then I go to the original source and I open up this giant, uh, enormous, cumbersome book, and then I get kind of explored a little bit more. So that's how I found this kind of random passage, but it really it grabbed me. In the past, householder, there was a Brahmin named Valama. He gave such great alms offerings as this: 84,000 golden bowls filled with silver, 84,000 silver bowls filled with gold, 84,000 bronze bowls filled with bullion, 84,000 elephants with golden ornaments, golden banners, covered with nets of gold thread, 84,000 chariots with upholstery of lion skins, tiger skins, leopard skins, and saffron-dyed blankets with golden ornaments, golden banners, covered with nets of gold thread. Bear with me. It gets better. 84,000 milk cows with jute tethers and bronze pails, 84,000 maidens adorned with jeweled earrings, 84,000 couches spread with rugs, blankets, and covers, with excellent coverings of antelope hide, with canopies and red bolsters at both ends, 84,000 kotis of cloth made of fine linen, fine silk, fine wool, and fine cotton. How much more of food and drink, snacks, meals, refreshments, beverages? It seemed to be flowing like rivers. So at this point, I'm not really sure where he's going with this, but it reminds me of in the Jewish tradition, we have a Seder, and there's a special prayer at the Seder called Dayenu. So it's like, it just reminds me of that vibe. It's like, if that wasn't enough, 84,000 golden bowls filled with silver, Dayenu. 84,000 silver bowls filled with gold, Dayenu. It would have been enough. And he just keeps going and going to kind of build the importance of what he's about to say. Even more fruitful than the great alms offerings than that Brahmin Valama gave would be to feed one person of accomplished few. Okay, so now it's getting a little more interesting. For all that material generosity is less fruitful than feeding one person of accomplished few. And even more fruitful than the great alms offerings that the Brahmin Valama gave, and feeding 100 persons of accomplished few, would be to feed one once returner. A once returner is a partially enlightened person, and they're probably going to be reincarnated one more time before they are fully enlightened. So even more fruitful than feeding 100 once returners would be to feed one non-returner. So a non-returner is also partially enlightened, and they're not going to be reincarnated in the human realm, but they're going to be reincarnated in a divine spirit realm, and then they have probably one more chance in the divine spirit realm to become fully enlightened. And even more fruitful than feeding 100 non-returners would be to feed one arahant. An arahant is a fully enlightened person. And even more fruitful than feeding 100 arahants would be to feed one Pakeka Buddha. So a Pakeka Buddha, again, it's a solitary Buddha. It's the fully enlightened person that achieved their enlightenment of their own accord, and they didn't have a teacher or a Sangha or anything like that. So even more fruitful than feeding 100 Pakeka Buddhas would be to feed the Tathagata, the Arahant, the perfectly enlightened one. So this is the Buddha, the original one. And so now he likes to refer to himself in the third person. And that's when you know he's about to get serious. All my favorite rappers, they always refer to themselves in the third person. So J. Cole does it, and Kendrick and Jay-Z, Biggie, they all refer to themselves in the third person. That's how you know they're about to drop some dimes, drop some wisdom. So that's what he's about to do. And it goes on and on. It's like a couple of pages of this really fine print, and but we're getting down to it. Don't worry. As fruitful as it would be to feed 100 tagathatas, would be to feed the Sangha of bhikkhus headed by the Buddha. And more fruitful than that would be, I'm going to skip some, to develop a mind of confidence to undertake the 5 trainings or rules, that is, to abstain from destruction of life, abstain from taking what is not given, abstain from sexual misconduct, abstain from false speech, abstain from liquor, wine, and intoxicants. And even more fruitful than all of that, in 84,000 silver bowls filled with gold, and on and on and on and on, even more fruitful would be to develop a mind of loving kindness, even for the time it takes to pull a cow's udder. So that's the punchline. He thinks it's kind of the most important thing. So if we can develop a quality of loving kindness for even the time it takes to pull a cow's udder, that would be perhaps the most fruitful thing that we can do. Actually, it's not the most fruitful thing. There's one other thing. There's one more sentence. Even more fruitful than developing a mind of loving kindness for the time it takes to pull a cow's udder would be to develop the perception of impermanence just for the time of a snap of a finger. So that's a little bit more important. But the second most important thing is loving kindness in the amount of time it takes to pull a cow's udder, which we could all relate to, right? That's a quality of time that we can all sense. All right. So this is something we can cultivate. And we have practices that help us connect with these qualities within ourselves. And the primary practice involves reciting certain statements or phrases to ourselves or out loud that are expressions of loving kindness. And some of the statements might feel quite natural to you and easy to connect with, and other statements might be quite difficult to feel at times. So don't worry if you don't feel authentic connection to the statements right away. It's okay to still recite them, even if you don't really deeply feel them. You're not going to hurt yourself if you say them without meaning it. But there's something about the statements themselves that are designed to help cultivate these qualities within ourselves and to help deepen these qualities if we're already feeling connected with them. So there's one other story that I want to share before we start. Well, it's not a story, it's just a few lines. There's a rabbi who taught the Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical tradition, and he used to instruct his disciples to memorize and recite and reflect on and contemplate the teachings. And he would say to place the teachings of the holy words on their heart. So place these words on your heart. And one day a student asked him, Rabbi, why do you always use the phrase on your heart? And the master replied, only the divine can put the teachings into your heart. Here we recite, we learn them, and we put them on the heart, hoping that someday when your heart breaks, by the grace of God, they will fall in. That's what we're doing. We're putting these words on our heart, whether we feel it or not, and then hopefully someday they fall in. So we're going to begin with some statements and cultivating these qualities. We begin on a more personal level, and then we expand to include everyone, all sentient beings in the universe. it's a good idea to start with ourselves, but sometimes that's really difficult. It can be very difficult to wish loving kindness towards ourselves at times. So what I like to do is start with a relationship that's easy. So we imagine a person, a relationship, or a place in the world that brings us nothing but positive feelings. And we start there and we start to kind of cultivate these qualities. And then maybe we can turn them towards ourselves. And then after that, we can kind of turn them towards a more difficult relationship. Um, and I assure you, everybody has at least one difficult relationship. We all have at least one nemesis or enemy. We can it might be an ex spouse, or it might be your current spouse. Who knows? I don't know what kind of relationship you like. Um, but it could be a neighbor who's always up early on Saturday running his leaf blower. Um, or if you don't have anyone in your personal life, you can bring in perhaps a politician that you have difficult feeling towards, or a president or former president, or someone running for president, or it could be a it could be even a deceased historical figure, or someone in your personal life who's no longer alive. So just anyone who is challenging, and then we bring them into our hearts and we wish for loving kindness towards them. And for some people, that can be the most difficult, and but also potentially the most healing practice. So then we've kind of charged ourselves up and we've cultivated all this loving kindness, and then we make another prayer and we wish for loving kindness for all beings everywhere. So that's kind of the format, and I'll kind of uh, walk us through it step by step. Okay. There's a lot of different phrases of metta practice, so you'll come across lots of different versions of what we're about to do, and these are the ones that I relate to. It's just the language that I like, but feel free to create your own language or use a slightly different translation of this. So again, I invite you to get situated, make yourselves comfortable. I invite you to connect with your anchor. So what's your anchor today? Might be mindfulness of your body, physical sensations, or your breath, or sound. How would it be to use this anchor as a resource throughout this session? Regardless of the feelings, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant, the invitation is to come back to this anchor as a resource. Now I'd like you to bring a mental image into your heart or your mind of a person or an animal or a place that's just easy to love. Think about this individual or your cat or your dog or the redwood forest or whatever place in nature that you have a lot of love for. You bring them into your heart and you let that love, your love for them, you let that fill you. If it's a person, you can imagine them right in front of you or with you, making eye contact or holding hands. If it's a pet, you can imagine touching their soft hair, their fur. snuggling with you, or if it's a place in nature, allow yourself to go there. Really feel that connection with the earth. And we say, may you be liberated. May you be free of suffering. May you be safe, free from inner and outer harm. May you be deeply nourished, healthy and strong. May you be permeated by wisdom. May you be embraced by loving kindness. May you love and be loved. May you live in peace. May you live in equanimity. May you be truly happy. And I let those words land on my heart. See what happens. How is it to express those words to this person or animal or piece of the earth who I love? And I notice the quality that is developed when I allow that to really intensify. How is it when I really give space for that? And now we turn this prayer towards ourselves. May I be liberated. May I be free of suffering. May I be safe, free from inner and outer harm. May I be deeply nourished, healthy and strong. May I be permeated by wisdom. May I be embraced by loving kindness. May I love and be loved. May I live in peace. May I live in equanimity. May I be truly happy. And I come back to my breath or my body. What is it like to notice these words of loving kindness towards myself? How is it to wish that for myself? And if there's resistance, can I be with that? What is it like to feel resistance towards this? If there's grief, sadness, anger, whatever's coming up, can I allow for that? Can I be with that? And now we let this momentum continue. And now we're going to turn this prayer towards a difficult relationship. So you can choose someone in your personal life again, or you might choose someone who you don't know personally, but someone in the world, past or present, that's difficult for you to love. And I hold them in my mind's eye. And I say, may you be liberated. May you be free of suffering. May you be safe, free from inner and outer harm. May you be deeply nourished, healthy and strong. May you be permeated by wisdom. May you be embraced by loving kindness. May you love and be loved. May you live in peace. May you live in equanimity. May you, yes, you, my arch nemesis, my enemy, may you be truly happy. And again, I come back to the breath, come back to my physical experience. What happens? I become mindful of my thoughts and feelings. What happens? How is that for me? to wish loving kindness for this difficult relationship. And if there is any resistance, and I have some loving kindness towards myself around that, yeah, it's hard. It can be hard. And can I let go of any self judgment that this might be hard? And let go of any idea that that should be easy. And regardless whether it's hard or easy, I simply put these words on my heart with a hope that someday they fall in. And we continue to allow this quality to cultivate and develop. And now we turn this towards all beings everywhere. May all beings everywhere be liberated. May all beings everywhere be free of suffering. May all beings everywhere be safe and free from inner and outer harm. May all beings everywhere be deeply nourished, healthy, and strong. May all beings everywhere be permeated by wisdom. May all beings everywhere be embraced by loving kindness. May all beings everywhere love and be loved. May all beings everywhere live in peace. May all beings everywhere live in equanimity. May all beings everywhere be truly happy. May all beings everywhere be truly happy. What do I notice when I make this offering, this prayer towards all beings everywhere? How is that for me? I come back to my breath, mindfulness of my breath. I become mindful of my body, the sounds. I just arrive here in this moment. Mindful of my thoughts and my feelings. What is it like to be a human in this body with this self? This sincere offering of loving kindness to the world. When you're ready, I invite you to wiggle your fingers or your toes. You might bring a hand or your hands to your heart or your belly to help you come back into this room. If your eyes were closed, I invite you to open them, or you might keep them closed. If your eyes were already open, you can look around the room and come back into this space. Again, feel free to wiggle if you need to wiggle, change positions if you need to change positions. Okay, thank you for sharing this practice with me. So yeah, I'd like to open up for any comments or questions. And one thing that I'd like to just say before we do that, that I forget to say sometimes is um, for those of us that are feeling brave or vulnerable enough to speak, it can be very vulnerable and challenging. So as a way of honoring that, um, I'd like to invite everyone else to just listen and just hold space for whatever the question or the comment is. And please no crosstalk. So resist the urge to comment about your own experience with regards to their comments. Like just allow them to have their question or the comment. And just for the sake of this practice, I might respond or might not. Um, and you might have something really great that you want to say, but just really hold that in your own heart and don't share it. Mainly because it can have the effect of making someone else feel like a little less than if you share your wisdom after they share something vulnerable. So um, I just want to keep it to that format for this Sangha. So if you have a question or a comment, um, yeah, I open the floor to whoever wants to speak. No pressure. How was that for you? What worked? What was challenging? What was easy, if anything?
I really appreciated the story of the kiss. It was a lovely, unconditional, loving gift. So thank you for that. I'll remember that one for quite a while. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, it's touching to me too. To me, it's like such a perfect little uh, vignette of writing. It's just like perfectly written. Yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
My heart feels like it's on fire. Towards the end there, I was feeling like this golden flame kind of like.
Beautiful. Is it okay to allow yourself to feel that golden flame within your heart?
Yeah, it felt really good. It wasn't till the very end when you were saying, when you repeated like kindness or love and kindness for all beings. And then when you repeated that the second time, then I was kind of feeling that. So
Mm.
um, thank you. And thank you everyone for being here too. I can really feel like the field as well. So I appreciate you.
Thanks for sharing. Anyone else have any comments or reflections, questions?
I want to say I just love the part in the beginning where you love your dog or my cat or my friend's dog here, like, because it is really lovely to transfer that love to then myself or, you know, my partner's daughter who I'm having a hard time with right now. Like, it's like there's something the way it just slides into, I can offer that love because it's so easy to access it. So that is a really effective and beautiful way to like slide right into pure love. So that's, I
Beautiful.
really like that.
Yeah, glad you had that experience. Yeah.
Yeah, little dog here is so cute.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It can be quite daunting when we consider, extending love and kindness to our enemies or to the entire world. It feels like, how do you even begin? And that's how. It's just so easy. We can all relate to that feeling because it comes from inside us. It's there already. Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Johanna.
Um, I think for me, the most potent aspect of it was the power of the Sangha, as someone else had already mentioned. Um, the sensing into the field around us of the sincerity of the practice
Yeah,
and the timing after the full moon is quite lovely.
beautiful. Thanks for sharing that, John Priya.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
I enjoy that too. It's beautiful to feel the kind of momentum that we can build together.
Community.
Yeah. Did anybody have a difficult experience with any section of that, or was it pretty seamless today? Everyone's having a good day. Great. Sometimes it's like that. Um, yeah. So, oh, was there someone else?
I was just gonna tag on to that. Yeah, it was just lovely to spend intentional time in my heart like that and to feel the expansiveness. Um, yeah, that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
This is my friend Katie, David.
Hi,
Hi, Katie.
Katie. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, we're neighbors. Yeah.
Lovely.
I also want to just quickly mention I had a challenging experience too. Um, kind of when I was expanding outwards around different difficult relationships or challenging people or harmful people, feeling like almost um, I guess like disgust kind of feeling around like these people are causing real harm. How can I wish that on them? Um, so yeah, I guess kind of like some unpleasantness there. And then also kind of like a little voice in my head was like, if they were not suffering, and if they were truly, if they really did feel that sense of love, then maybe they wouldn't feel compelled to act in a certain way.
Yeah, exactly. Well said.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. I think what you spoke to, Dina, is really the real challenge in doing that, like in our lives. So it's one thing to like do it in a practice, and we cultivate uh, these settings that are really conducive to uh, growing these qualities in our heart, and so that's great. This is where it starts. But then, like when we're walking around, and we're in our relationship, and we're exposed to news, or we're exposed to different people, can I do that? Can I really bring metta into my life in real time? And so the more we practice it, the more easy we can access that. And that's really the goal, to be able to share this with everyone and not withhold it from people, um, regardless of who they are and what they do and what we perceive about them and what they've done to us that we perceive may have harmed us personally or globally or whatever. So yeah, that's the beautiful practice there.
Yeah, it's a practice for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Closing thoughts, anyone? Are we good? Well, thank you. Lovely to share this time with you and to share this practice. This is, like I said, this is my favorite. To me, like, oh, I read that thing, that the quote from the Buddha, and the Buddha thinks it's the second most important thing. That doesn't really matter to me. I mean, it doesn't give me that much validation, the fact that the Buddha thinks it's the second most important thing. It feels like the most important thing to me. My heart knows it is one of the most important things. So this is what it's all for, all of our practices. Like if you can't like make it come to life in the world, in our relationships and the way that we behave, then what's the point? So this is where, to me, all the spiritual practices come into action, is through loving kindness. So yeah, it's a joy. It's a joy to practice with all of you. Thank you. Some of you have asked, if we're going to do this more or again, or in what context. And right now, my idea is to do another 4-week Sangha group practice in September. And so we'll do it 4 weeks, and it's actually, the 4 weeks are going to be focused on the Brahma Viharas. So we'll kind of dive into that. Someone's clapping. I love your little clapping hands, M. So yeah, so in September, we'll go through each of the 4 Brahma Viharas. We'll do loving kindness practice again. Can't get enough of that. And then I'm thinking about maybe just once a month sharing something together, and something like that, where we can kind of keep some momentum and keep a community going, even if it's online, which is super convenient for people. So yeah, it's my current thought. Yay. Someone else is clapping. Johanna. All right. Beautiful. Well, thank you. Wishing you all a lovely evening. See you next time.